Helen Drake, a young woman in her late 20s, moved to the small, rural town of Whitestone, Massachusetts, looking for a fresh start. She had recently gone through a painful breakup and needed space to breathe and reflect. The house she found was cheap, charming, and isolated from the rest of the town, nestled on the edge of a dense forest. It seemed perfect, until she heard the wailing. At first, Helen thought it was just the wind. But the sound came every night, sharp and piercing, like the cry of a child in pain. It wasn't normal, but it was also distant enough that she convinced herself it was just her imagination. The town, too, seemed quiet, almost too quiet. No one really spoke much, but they were friendly enough when she interacted with them. The mayor was an elderly man who seemed to know everyone, yet he never spoke of the forest or the strange noise that haunted her nights. On her second week in Whitestone, Helen met Abigail, an older woman who lived in the house next to hers. Abigail's eyes were dark, her expression often solemn, and she seemed to study Helen closely every time they spoke. One afternoon, as they were chatting outside their homes, Abigail lowered her voice and said, "Whatever you do, don't go into the woods after dark." Helen laughed it off, thinking it was a typical local superstition. But Abigail's face remained serious. "The wailing," she said softly. "It's not the wind. It's never just the wind." Helen didn't ask for details, but the warning stuck with her. That night, the wailing was worse. It sounded louder and closer, as if something, or someone, was outside her window, calling to her. Curiosity gnawed at her. The wailing, the warnings, the strange feeling she had every time she walked into town, it all felt too much to ignore. Helen decided to investigate. She spent the day asking around, but no one was willing to talk about it. The more she asked, the more people seemed to withdraw into themselves. The mayor, however, had one cryptic remark: "Some things are better left forgotten." That evening, after the sun set, Helen stood by the edge of the forest, staring into the dark trees. The air was thick and still, as if the forest was holding its breath. The wailing began again, louder now, echoing through the trees, carrying with it an undeniable sense of despair. It was as though the sound itself was calling her deeper into the forest. Helen couldn't resist any longer. She ventured into the woods at night, the wailing guiding her steps. The deeper she went, the colder it became, and the louder the cries. They were close now, just beyond the trees. Her heart raced as she stumbled through the underbrush, following the sound until she reached a clearing. In the center of the clearing stood a large, twisted tree, its bark gnarled and blackened, as if it had been struck by lightning. Beneath it, something moved. It was a shape, crouched low to the ground, its back hunched. The wailing came from this thing, its voice ragged and desperate. Helen's breath caught in her throat. The creature turned to face her, revealing a face twisted in agony. Its eyes were hollow, its skin stretched tight over its bones, and its mouth hung open in a silent scream. It was then that she realized. This thing had once been human, but something had happened to it, something horrific. It was no longer alive in any meaningful way, but it was not truly dead either. It was trapped, bound to the forest by the curse of the wailing. The creature began to move toward her, its fingers reaching out, grasping the air as if it could touch her very soul. The wailing intensified, becoming a cacophony of screams and sobs, all emanating from the twisted figure. Helen's mind raced as she backed away, realizing that the creature's torment was endless. It was the source of the sound, the heart of the curse that had plagued the town for generations. She turned and ran, her footsteps echoing in the night as the wailing pursued her. The sound seemed to surround her, pressing in from all sides, louder with every step. The forest itself seemed to close in, the trees becoming twisted and gnarled as though reaching for her. Helen barely made it back to her house, slamming the door behind her as the wailing continued, now distant but still ever present. She stood there, trembling, her heart pounding in her chest. The creature, the curse, it was all real. And she knew that she couldn't stay in Whitestone any longer. The town was cursed, and the wailing would never stop. The next morning, Helen packed her things and left without a word to anyone. She drove away from Whitestone, the town disappearing behind her as the wailing slowly faded into the distance. But even as she left, she knew deep down that the curse would follow her. The wailing would never stop. In the rearview mirror, she thought she saw the figure of a person standing at the edge of the woods, watching her go. But when she looked again, there was nothing there. Only the dark trees, stretching on forever.